The untold story of a Black Jesus represents a profound intersection of faith, history, and racial identity that compels us to confront deeply rooted assumptions. As we navigate this narrative, we must recognize the extent to which the image of Jesus has been shaped by centuries of colonization and religious conformity. The concept of a Black Jesus is not just a challenge to traditional portrayals of Christ, but also a call to revisit historical narratives that have often sidelined or erased the contributions of Africa to Christianity. It is a story that asks us to rethink the relationship between race and our understanding of spirituality, revealing how power, prejudice, and politics have influenced religious perceptions for centuries. The dominant image of Jesus in Western Christian thought has been that of a light-skinned, European-looking figure, a portrayal far removed from the likely appearance of a man born in Bethlehem and raised in the Middle East. This image, perpetuated through art, literature, and religious teaching, reflects a Eurocentric perspective that has overlooked the true cultural and historical context of Jesus. Historically, this interpretation has reinforced narratives that align divinity with whiteness while pushing African heritage to the margins of Christian history. Yet, the story of a Black Jesus offers a new lens through which to view these issues, providing an opportunity for a richer, more inclusive understanding of faith and cultural diversity. Delving into the African heritage of Jesus and early Christianity is a journey through a history that has often been overlooked. It requires a willingness to challenge the long-standing Eurocentric lens through which Christianity has been predominantly viewed. The popular image of Jesus as a fair-skinned figure is not rooted in historical fact, but in centuries of cultural interpretation and bias. In reality, Jesus' physical features likely mirrored those of the indigenous populations of the region, with darker skin and features resembling those of Middle Eastern and North African peoples. His journey into Egypt as a child, where his family sought refuge, symbolizes a deeper connection to the African continent, portraying Africa as a place of sanctuary and safety. The Bible does not offer a detailed description of Jesus' physical appearance, which has allowed for a variety of interpretations over the centuries. However, many scholars agree that the geographical and cultural context of Jesus' life suggests he bore closer resemblance to local populations than to the European depictions that have dominated religious art. His connections to Africa extend beyond symbolism. They are deeply embedded in the historical narrative of early Christianity. The Gospel's reference to his family's sojourn in Egypt is not just a story of survival, but a testament to Africa's role in the early Christian experience. Moreover, the intellectual and spiritual contributions of early African theologians to Christian thought cannot be overstated. During the early centuries of Christianity, North Africa became a center of theological debate and development, producing influential thinkers like Augustine of Hippo, Tertullian, and Origen. These figures laid the foundations of Christian doctrine, shaping ideas about grace, salvation, and the nature of God that continue to resonate within the faith today. Yet, despite their significant impact, the African roots of these theologians are often minimized in the broader Christian history, overshadowed by the preference for a Eurocentric history. Augustine, a Berber from North Africa, played a pivotal role in developing Christian theology. His writings on topics like original sin and divine grace became central to Western Christian thought. Tertullian, another African theologian, was the first to articulate the doctrine of the Trinity, a concept that remains foundational in Christian belief.
Origen, who worked in Alexandria, made substantial contributions to biblical interpretation and the formation of early Christian thought. The erasure of their African identity from mainstream Christian history has not been an oversight, but a distortion, a deliberate choice that has reinforced the dominance of Eurocentric perspectives while obscuring the diversity of early Christian influences. The marginalization of Africa's role in Christianity is closely linked to the legacy of European colonization. As European powers expanded their empires across Africa, they brought with them a version of Christianity heavily influenced by European cultural norms and racial ideologies. This version of the faith often served as a tool of colonization, used to justify the exploitation and subjugation of African peoples. The image of a white Jesus became central to this colonial project, reinforcing the belief that European civilization and values were superior.
This version of Christianity portrayed Africans as spiritually deficient and culturally inferior, a narrative used to legitimize the atrocities of the transatlantic slave trade and the exploitation of African lands. In this context, the erasure of a black Jesus and the denial of Africa's influence in the development of Christianity served to support colonial ideologies. The portrayal of a white European Jesus was not simply a matter of artistic preference. It was a means of aligning the divine with the colonizer while excluding African peoples from the sacred narrative. This distortion of Christian history has had profound implications for how faith has been perceived and practiced among African and African-descended communities. It created a sense of spiritual alienation, where many felt that the core teachings of Christianity, love, justice, and equality, were at odds with the version used to justify their oppression. Yet, even in the face of this cultural imposition, African Christians maintained a resilient connection to their faith. Across Africa and the diaspora, acts of spiritual resistance emerged as believers adapted and preserved their traditions, creating new forms of worship reflecting their heritage. These acts of resistance were not just about survival. They were a rejection of colonial distortions and a reaffirmation of Africa's deep spiritual heritage. Today, the narrative of a black Jesus is part of a growing movement to reclaim Africa's rightful place in Christian history. This reclamation is not merely about correcting historical records. It is about empowering believers to see themselves in the sacred story that shaped their faith. Reclaiming this heritage challenges exclusionary narratives and invites all believers to embrace the diversity that has been part of Christianity since its beginning. The faith emerged in a multicultural world, influenced by many cultures, including Africa. Recognizing this challenges the notion that Christianity belongs to any single race or culture, and instead affirms that its message transcends boundaries, offering a universal call to love, justice, and equality. Restoring Africa's role in Christian history is a step toward healing wounds caused by centuries of exclusion. By embracing this broader understanding, believers can build a more inclusive expression of faith that reflects its true origins. The image of a black Jesus is not a divisive symbol, but a call to embrace a fuller understanding of the Christian tradition. In today's world, where societies still grapple with racism and inequality, this story reminds us of the need for inclusivity. It challenges Christians to see beyond racial divisions and to embrace a vision of Jesus that reflects humanity's diversity. It is not about replacing one image with another,
but about expanding our understanding to include the richness of history that has often been left in the shadows. To honor the message of Jesus fully, communities must engage in open dialogue about Christianity's diverse roots. These conversations can restore dignity and belonging to those excluded from dominant narratives. By sharing this story, we move toward a more authentic and inclusive faith, one capable of addressing the complexities of the modern world while remaining true to the universal values Jesus taught. The journey to reclaim Africa's heritage within Christianity is one of resilience, recovery, and hope. It invites us to explore the past honestly and build a future where every believer's story is valued. In embracing this narrative, we move toward a Christianity that is not only historically richer, but spiritually deeper, offering a more complete understanding of the faith that has shaped countless lives.